Difficult question.
She was just, going to school quite happily, coming home, spending time with the family, just the ordinary things.
The Met Police says the girls won't be arrested if they come home, as there's no evidence they've been involved in terrorist activity. Home Office Minister Lynn Featherstone's told Ian that's the right decision.
They have been groomed. I think they are not of the age of total responsibility, and I think that it is right that we treat them in a way that will give them a future that they should have had if they had been stopped from going in the first place.
New anti-terror laws aimed at stopping suspects boarding flights to Syria and Iraq have been agreed by MPs. One of the new measures will stop Britons and foreigners who've had their passports seized from travelling in and out of the UK. Top Gear presenter Jeremy Clarkson's been suspended by the BBC after a confrontation with a producer. The latest episode of the show won't be broadcast this Sunday. TV critic at the Sunday Mirror, Kevin O'Sullivan, has told Ian it follows a race row Clarkson was involved in last year.
He was forced to apologise for that and made it clear in his column in The Sun. He said, "I have been given my absolute final warning by the BBC." So whatever this is that has happened today, if it turns out to be bad, I don't see what the BBC can do here except actually get rid of him.
The Met Police Commissioner says an investigation sparked by abuse allegations against Jimmy Savile has so far cost £3.5 million. Sir Bernard Hogan-Howe says Operation U-Tree has a dedicated team of 200 officers and has so far secured 5 convictions. Doctors in Cardiff are testing a patient with a history of travel to West Africa for suspected Ebola. Health officials say the risk to the public is low. Greater Manchester Police are looking into reports of a racially abusive tweet about Arsenal striker Danny Welbeck. He scored the winning goal against his former club Manchester United in last night's FA Cup quarter-final. The FTSE 100 index saw £44 billion wiped off its value today in its steepest fall for 5 months. Just 2 weeks ago, the share index surpassed a record high. Earlier, it fell more than 173 points amid fears of a hike in US interest rates and continued uncertainty over Greece. LBC weather mainly dry overnight with a frost in places for London and the southeast with some light winds, lows of 4 Celsius, strengthening winds for northern Scotland, the northwest and Wales, with some rainy patches, cloudy for Northern Ireland. Tomorrow, cloudy with outbreaks of rain, highs of 9 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Rosanne Wynne.
I'm Amy Solomon in the LBC Travel Centre. In West London, Tolworth Broadway is closed for a police investigation, so it's very, very slow on the approach to that one and around the Tolworth roundabout as a result. On the M25, you're heavy anti-clockwise approaching junction 6 at Godstone from 7 at the M23, and the entry slip from the A22 is still closed. It's all because of emergency works. Also anti-clockwise on the M25, the exit slip at junction 12 for the M3 still slow because of roadworks. And in East London, the A12, that's slow eastbound from the Lee Interchange to the Green Man roundabout in Wanstead, all after an accident earlier on today. Also, the A4 in West London, those lights at the Hogarth roundabout in Chiswick are still out. Southbound on the M3 in Surrey, you're down to 1 lane between junction 3 at Bagshot and 4 at Camberley. That's because of an accident, so there are long queues past the scene. Keeping you moving, your next travel update is in 15 minutes.
LBC Travel
with Go-To Meeting. Cut your commute and catch up with your family.
This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Ian Dale at Drive. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
Hello, very good evening. Yes, it's Ian Dale at Drive here on LBC in the company of the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, Harriet Harman. I called her Deputy Prime Minister earlier on. I was sort of possibly a little bit presumptuous there. As you can tell, she's already here. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call if you've got a question for Harriet Harman. Lots of things to talk about, really. Lots of developments in the election campaign. Obviously, the debates. I suppose we could cover that subject. Again, Ed Balls' speech yesterday when he accused the Tories of wanting to cut public spending by a whopping £70 billion. He even said that they'd abolish the Foreign Office, although retracted on that a little bit later. Lots to talk about with Harriet Harman. Now, are you sort of in election mood already? I'm getting the feeling that you are with your pink bus and all that.
Yes, the campaign has definitely started and around the country. And one of the things that I'm very concerned about is not just the people who do vote, but the millions of people who don't vote. And in particular, the preponderance of women who don't vote. Millions of women didn't vote in 2010. 9.1 million women didn't vote. 1.1 million here in London. And if they voted, then they could really shift the balance of power. But,
David Cameron could have got a majority.
Indeed not. But but basically, it's like the suffragettes. I don't think it's any good saying like, oh, the suffragettes died to get you the right to vote. We've got to give them a reason to vote, which is why the pink bus is on the route all around. It's about women themselves and giving them a chance to listen, to say what they want.
Kenneth Williams might say it's become a cult, Harriet. It's become a cult.
It has. There's definitely people jumping in front of it doing selfies and things, I've noticed. And I'm going, can we talk about me now? And they're suddenly posing in front of the pink bus and I have to photo bomb.
Didn't Fathers for Justice take a shine to it?
They did. They're having a protest which basically the issues they've got of concern are about the decisions of the family courts. And the family courts hear the mother of the children, hear the father of the children, hear the independent advisors about the interests of the children, and they make a decision in the interests of the children. It's not a decision for us as politicians. So them demonstrating against us really is not going to help them or their children or anybody else.
Now, if you're watching via the website lbc.co.uk, because that's what you can do, you'll notice that Harriet hasn't put on her headphones yet, so she won't hear the next caller who's about to come on the line. It's Reginald in Godstone. Hello, Reginald.
Hello.
Good evening, Ian, and good evening, Harriet. How are you?
Very good so far, but it's only 6 minutes in, so it could get worse.
Excellent. The question I have for you relates to these three Labour candidates, rather, that are rejecting the £1,000 from the former leader, Tony Blair. My question is, why have they refused it, and on what principle are they operating in refusing it? I'll tell you my view just quickly. Loyalty is a key thing. The principle that they've rejected this on, saying whatever they have to say, as far as I'm concerned, nobody's ever accused Tony Blair of taking money from the public purse for personal consumption. He's earned this money. And if he's given it to a party that he won 3 different elections for, provided the majority of MPs for, I think is disloyal to the party to publicly reject this. As a matter of fact, if they want to stand on the principles, then they should either go independent or change parties. That's my
right.
view.
Okay. Let's get Harriet's view on that.
Well, we agree with, uniform. We need to have a sort of clear central position in the party. But, Reginald, we're not the Soviet Communist Party. People, even if they're candidates in the election, have got freedom to decide how they actually present themselves to the people they're seeking election from. And that includes them deciding who they will take donations from and who they don't take no donations from. Now, any donation from anybody in this country, which is got by legal means, is a perfectly legal donation, and it's all registered and out in the open and transparent. But it's down to them if they don't want to take that money. But actually, I won't hear a word said against Tony Blair, actually. I think he led us to victory in 3 general elections, and as a result, the NHS, which was absolutely on its knees, was saved. People used to earn £1.60 an hour. When he was Prime Minister, he brought in the national minimum wage.
So why don't you adopt the stance that Alistair Campbell has taken? He tweeted, to attention-seeking Labour candidates rejecting Tony Blair money. 1, he won more Labour seats than anyone. 2, the Tories are loaded. 3, do you want to win? Very simple message.
It's down to them. They are grown-ups. They can make that decisions according to their views. I don't know which 3 it is who've actually...
It's Sally Keeble, Leslie Brennan in Dundee East, who has just tweeted, the thing's just gone off my screen, received donation from Tony Blair. Instinct was to not accept. Discussed with team. Dundee East is not accepting the £1,000. Well, how gratuitous is that?
Well, it's down to them, and it's down to their electors as to what they make of it. I think most have. But, let's not actually let this overshadow what Tony Blair did and the good he did actually when we were in government, and let's not let it overshadow the big choice for the British people that there is at the next general election.
You would accept it, clearly, if he offered you some money.
Yes, but he hasn't.
No, you're not really a marginal seat.
I'm not a marginal seat, although we have to fight for every vote.
You would if he did.
Yes, I would, but that's my own personal decision, and we are not the Stasi. We don't go round telling our candidates what to think. And, they are absolutely fantastic candidates for the Labour Party and believe in our manifesto that we're going to be bringing forward and will be part of a Labour government. Right. But we don't have thought police.
Reginald, final word from you?
Well, I think, I'd rather take money from Tony Blair, who earned his money and paid his taxes, than from a non-taxpayer. And I know these people do that. And, it's a bit disruptive to do it like this. If you have a personal reason why you wouldn't want Tony Blair's money, then you probably shouldn't be in the party that he won such massive landslide elections with, and go somewhere else.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's move on to Jake, who's in Kensington. Hello, Jake.
Hello there. Hi, Harriet. I've just got 2 points, if I could make. One of them being, what do you feel, in your opinion, is the sort of main reason, because you're within that arena, why David Cameron decided not to, opted out from the debate with Ed? And the second thing is what would you suggest and advise your voters if they disagreed with that? Effective ways of, vetoing his decision of actually opting out and having some sort of influence on that.
Okay, so basically, we've got to work out why it is that he said these debates, when he was in opposition, these debates are absolutely fundamental, a big choice facing people as who is going to go into number 10. They should be prepared to debate on broadcast television. And we agreed with him on that, and Gordon Brown agreed to do that, and 22 million people watched. And when I've been going around the country, sometimes I come across somebody and they say, I haven't decided who to vote for, and I say, what is going to make your mind up, hoping that I can then spiel off a whole load of pledges which will swing them, and they say, I'm waiting until I've seen the debates. It's quite interesting that actually people, it's already in people's minds, even though it's only happened once. So I think the reason why he is not doing them, there can only be one reason, which is that he is not proud of what his government's done, doesn't believe he can justify what the government's done and what it hasn't done, and he hasn't got anything to say about the future of this country. So therefore he does not want to go head-to-head with Ed Miliband, who is, there is only going to be one Prime Minister after the next general election, and those are the two, and therefore he should be prepared to do that.
Listeners know my view on this. I think he should do them. But I'm going to put to you the defence that he would make were he here today, but obviously he wouldn't want to debate.
I didn't answer the second part
we'll
of
come on to that in a second.
Jake's question.
But he says that last time the debate sucked the life out of the campaign, so they should have been held earlier, and it's the broadcaster's fault that hasn't happened.
Do you believe that? I don't.
I don't really. I mean, I do think that because they were weekly, there were three. There shouldn't have been three. There should have probably been two. It was a much shorter campaign last time. But the main point is, if you do it before the campaign, the manifestos haven't been launched. So what are you actually debating?
Exactly. Well, I think there's plenty to debate in terms of what they've done wrong and actually, what we would do to put it right in terms of what we've already said. But actually, you're right. We need to have a head-to-head. And I've got an answer to what we would do in the future if we were in government.
Basically, at the moment, going to legislate.
Well, basically, at the moment, let's call it legal framework. Okay, if legislation upsets you, legal framework.
It's not that it upsets me. It's just that it seems to be a very sort of big stick to crack a little problem.
Fear not, Ian, because this is how it would work. Is that. And it's a big issue. I think what the voters get to see before they cast their vote is a big issue. So it's not a little issue, it's a big issue. But the other thing is that we have the party election broadcast, and we have a system within a legal framework. So there's an independent process that decides how long it should be, which parties it should be, at what stage it should go out. And all we do is just add the debates to that so that you put it within the same legal framework.
Maybe there should be a sort of commission on election debates like there is in the United States, because it's totally separate from government. There is an independent commission that organises the presidential debates.
Well, that's how they do the party election election broadcasts already in this country. So I think it's a bit unseemly him wriggling and making excuses. It's not very prime ministerial.
I suspect that there are a few episodes of this soap opera to run yet. You can, of course, watch us as well as listen to us. We're at lbc.co.uk. More of your calls to come. 0345 6060 973. Harriet Harman's here with me until 8 o'clock tonight. This is LBC. It's 7:15.
This is Adam Moore in the LBC Travel Centre. Good evening. Well, some big queues on the M3 as you head coastbound this evening after an accident involving 3 cars blocking 2 of the 3 lanes between Bagshot at Junction 3 and Junction 4 for Camberley. Now, the Highways Agency are telling me there's no injuries, but there's quite a bit of oil and debris on the carriageway there, so it could take a while to clear up. So the M3 coastbound, very slow at the moment, delays of around 30 to 40 minutes, and the queues are back past Junction 3 at Bagshot. M25 anti-clockwise, there's a lane shut on the main carriageway at Junction 6 for Godstone, and the entry slip road from Godstone, the A22, is shut at the moment. They're doing resurfacing work there and also repairing a manhole which has collapsed. Delays in Tolworth tonight. The A240 Tolworth Broadway is shut northbound for a police investigation, and Oxford Road, the A40, shut at Burford after an accident at Shilton Road. Keeping you moving, our next travel update is in 15 minutes.
LBC Travel
With Go-To Meeting, where there's always a seat for you.
To the wheelbarrow race winners and the Sunday League smashers, the chainsaw juggling champions and the sword scoffing masters, to the triathletes, the mathletes, to all of our fellow number ones, we say, boom! You did it, and so did we.
O2 has been ranked #1 network for customer service satisfaction by Ofcom for the 6th time in a row. O2, be more dog.
The Vista of Venice, recognised throughout the world. But add in the sounds of the Grand Canal at first light, and it's unforgettable. It's these small finishing touches that make a huge difference. For the ultimate finishing touch for your home, use SureSet's permeable paving. Guaranteed for 15 years, it adds a classic touch to your home. Stunning, permeable paving from SureSet. To find out more, visit suresetfinish.com.
Remembering every phone number you've ever called is not impressive. What is impressive is remembering to call 118434 whenever you need a number. 118434. It's the handy number for handy numbers.
Calls cost 76 pence plus £1.53 per minute from a BT landline. Other networks vary and mobiles cost considerably more.
My transit van. It's where I've got everything I need. Floral foam, stub and rose wires, buckets, trays, secateurs, stem tape and half a packet of cheese and onion crisps. Same with new Ford Transit Centres. I know everything I need is there too. They're dedicated, so these guys know Ford vans inside out. Expert advice on choosing the right vehicle, help with finance, support to keep me on the road. I can count on it all. They're nationwide and open late, so I'm never far from the services I need when I need them. New Ford Transit Centres in a few words. Specialist sales, service and repairs. It's all in.
If you need a full set of teeth replacing, now there's an alternative to the discomfort of dentures or the lengthy, painful treatment of traditional implants. I'm Dr. Michael Zibitz, dental specialist at TDC Implant Centre, and our award-winning new procedure could give you a full set of beautiful fixed teeth restored in just one day. Contact us now to find out more. See smileinaday.co.uk or call TDC Harley Street on 0203 7334 986.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
The Crufts story just gets a little bit murkier. Michael Gadsby, who's breeder and exhibitor.
She's a friend of mine who bred the Irish setter. She herself has quite categorically stated that she does not feel for 1 second that this was another exhibitor who did this.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Every weekday morning from 7 on LBC.
With Hampton by Hilton, with over 2,000 hotels worldwide.
This is Harriet Harman and I'm here with Ian Dale on LBC, and I will be for the next hour taking your calls. So on any issue you want to ask about, I'll do my best to respond, to answer your questions. Get in touch on 0345 6060 973, or you can text on 84850, or you can watch us live and you can watch us live on the LBC website by going to lbc.co.uk.
Now, before we go back to the calls, I've got a text here from Jim in Leicester who says, do you think the BBC should sack Jeremy Clarkson? And for those of you who haven't got a clue what that means, the BBC have suspended Jeremy Clarkson after a fracas, in inverted commas, with one of his producers. So, Harriet Harman, do you think that the BBC should sack Jeremy Clarkson?
Well, I think fracas usually means punch up, doesn't it? Spat usually means shouting in these sort of codes. So I think they'll be having a proper, serious disciplinary investigation with his producer, was it? Not even a passer-by.
I can sympathise with him sometimes.
So basically, there'll be... there's obviously a serious issue at stake and they'll have to go through their disciplinary processes. He's obviously somebody who's, incredibly talented, but he treads very near and often over the line. But it wasn't me that was involved in this fracas with Jeremy Clarkson, I'd like to point out. So I'm not there to give a eyewitness report.
Alleged that he threw a punch at a producer. You've been very critical of him in the past after, I think in the last episode where
using
he was
the N-word. Yeah, I mean, I don't... I think that, he could be controversial without, completely stepping over the line. Anyway, this is obviously about a specific incident and they'll have to investigate it.
You're being a bit wishy-washy on this, if I may say so, uncharacteristically so.
Well, that is just my view. If he has had a fracas and done something which is completely out of order in a working situation, or indeed even in a leisure situation, then that will be a disciplinary offence.
You're Shadow Culture Secretary as well as Deputy Labour Leader.
Yeah, but that doesn't entitle me to decide who does presenting on the BBC or who doesn't.
Effectively, the BBC is funded by taxpayers' money. It's boorish behaviour. It's not the first time he's done it. He's been he's been let off a couple of times. He's supposedly in the Last Chance saloon. Why can't you call for him to be kicked out of the saloon? If he's in
the Last Chance saloon, which, as they've said, if he's done boorish behaviour, I'm sure he will be out. But I don't think it's right for a Secretary of State or a Shadow Secretary of State to decide who is employed or who isn't employed. I do think the BBC has to uphold decent standards in all respects, and however gifted people are as presenters, they are not entitled to think that they're above decent standards of behaviour. So we'll see what happens.
And you're a renowned driver. We've read a lot about your driving antics. Do you watch Top Gear?
I have occasionally. It's caught the corner of my eye.
And you said, Jack, switch that thing off.
What I've thought is, sometimes I've thought it's absolutely hilarious broadcasting, but actually very kind of, is entrenching old-fashioned views. It's not my cup of tea.
Okay. What do you watch on a Sunday night?
We watched Wolf Hall, we started watching something else now. What have we started watching now?
I don't know. I haven't been
in my house. Anyway, I'll remember it shortly.
Indian Summer?
No, it's something else that just started this weekend.
Gogglebox?
Something that's not Tudors. I like Gogglebox.
I'd love to see you and Jack on Gogglebox, actually. Anyway, enough of this frippery.
You'd see our cats.
Let's go to... There's a joke there somewhere. Let's go to Megan, who's in Chelmsford. Hello, Megan.
Hello there. Good evening to you both.
Hi, what would you like to ask?
Hello. Harriet, I just wanted to pick up, as you're a woman, high-power woman in Parliament, pick up on what happened to Nicky Morgan earlier this week about her being called Love by Tristram Hunt. And I just wondered, have you ever been called Love or anything similar?
Much worse, I imagine.
Patronising to be called that term of endearment in the kind of not an endearing way per se.
Now, Harriet, you looked a bit flummoxed when that question was asked. Have you not heard about this?
I am looking surprised.
Right. Well, let me tell you what happened.
Because
there was education questions, and Nicky Morgan, I think, said something about universities policy, and Tristram Hunt was on his feet, and as he sat down, he said, "Not my responsibility, love." And that has caused, shall we say, sort of a bit of a stooshy. I mean, if that was a Tory MP doing that, I imagine you wouldn't be too impressed by that kind of language.
I'm sure he said, "That's not my responsibility, Secretary of State."
No, he genuinely said love.
Okay, well, he's never called me love, and I'm kind of slightly, I'm slightly surprised. It's not like it's not kind of his kind of language, his colloquialism.
You seem a bit lost for words.
How come I've not seen this? When did this supposed happen?
I don't know. It happened the day before. Whenever there was education questions. We had Nicky Morgan here yesterday, and I hadn't heard about it either, if I'm honest. But it definitely happened. But it's a bit like when David Cameron said, "Calm down, dear." Your side of the house got very exercised about that. But
that was absolutely.
Yeah,
that
but you
was
don't seem to be getting
really
exercised about this. It's the
well,
same kind
I know,
of sexist
because I'm going to have to go
it?
and look at the evidence. I've got to be very careful
assume
not
that
to be taking a view on my colleagues when I actually haven't seen the evidence myself. And quite often, not you, Ian, but people put things to people and then they say that's disgusting off with their head. And it never happened.
I can promise you it happened. On the basis that it did happen, surely, as a Britain's leading feminist, you can say that kind of language should not be used.
I'm not Britain's leading feminist. I'm actually...
Germaine Greer is, but she's Australian.
No. Basically, feminism is a unhierarchical movement.
Really?
So it has movement of women. It's not like we're not into leadership.
Well, I don't think we're going to get an answer on this, Megan. What did you make of it?
Did you hear it, Megan? Did you hear it yourself?
I didn't hear it, but I did hear Nicky Morgan speaking about it on LBC herself.
I mean, to be fair to her, she didn't make a big deal out of it.
No.
But we have a little clip from Nicky Morgan yesterday. Let's just play that now.
Well, it was education questions last week, and we had been talking about Labour's apparent education policy on tuition fees, and I explained the concern as a Member of Parliament representing a large university, and was told by the Shadow Education Secretary that not my responsibility, love, which, as I said this morning in an interview, there are many people who can call me love. I might even let you do it, Ian, but my husband and family certainly, but not the Shadow Secretary of State.
Did you say anything at the time? I mean, was it something that you got a little bit irritated at, or you just sort of brushed it off?
Well, at the time, education questions are so fast-paced that you're on to the next thing immediately. And it was said very much the microphones, they move on to the next speaker. It was said sort of almost a kind of like, actually, have I just heard? But absolutely, yes, I did.
So I think we can take Nicky Morgan at her word. Should Tristram Hunt apologise?
I just can't imagine that he actually said it. I'm sure she must have misheard it. It must have been like off mic. I mean, I'm quite surprised I haven't heard about it before. It's obviously causing a storm in this studio with Nicky Morgan, everybody commenting. But it hasn't reached me amongst all the problems that women face in this country.
You've been too busy on your pink bus. But if somebody had said that to you, if I in the middle of this interview called you love, you would be outraged, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't. I would be. No, I'm sure. I do think partly it depends on what the motive and intent is. Language is about context. And the thing about David Cameron saying, calm down, dear, is like women being told by men to calm down.
Winner had, wasn't it?
No, but women being told by men to calm down is usually when men have actually wound women up to beyond endurance.
See, you're winding me up now.
I'm winding myself up now.
Yeah. OK, Nikki in Toddington. Hello, Nikki.
Hi, Ian. Thank you for taking my call. I've got a question for Harriet. Good evening, Harriet.
Good evening.
I wonder if you think whether David Cameron is a feminist, and indeed whether you think that Ed Miliband is a feminist, and more importantly, can you evidence either of those and your views on their feminist or not?
OK, I think that David Cameron is not... Well, let's start with what the definition of feminism is, Nikki. By the way, it says here that you work in a male-dominated world. What do you do?
I work in insurance.
Oh, right. OK, so you're in financial services. Right. OK, so basically, I think feminism is about the equality for women and striving for equality for women. I don't think David Cameron strives for equality for women. He's only got 5 women in his cabinet. He obviously doesn't think the women in the Conservative Party have anything to say. I think that's wrong. And when he's been in government, actually things have slipped back for women. And so I don't think he's a feminist. I think Ed Miliband is a feminist. He's got 43% of his shadow cabinet is women. He says he wants to have 50% of women in the Parliamentary Labour Party and in the shadow cabinet. He wants to make sure that we are stronger on equal pay, on domestic violence, that there's more childcare. So definitely. And he used to work for me, so he's had good training in being a feminist.
That's a good answer. But if if Ed Miliband on election night or the day afterwards, when Labour wins a majority, if Labour wins a majority, and he rings you up and he says, Harriet, sorry, no, not love, sorry, but I'm not actually going to make you Deputy Prime Minister, what would you say then?
Well, let's not second guess the voters about deciding about what happens when we get into government. At the moment, we're all focused on actually winning every vote. But I am the shadow Deputy Prime Minister, and there is a level of expectation which accrues around that, which is there. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's the decision for the Prime Minister. But, you know, we've got to, before we start measuring up the curtains in number 10, we've got to be convincing people that actually things can be better than they are under this government.
Well, of course, it could be Alex Salmond as Deputy Prime Minister, but we might come on to that a little bit later. Harriet Harman's here with us until 8, so if you'd like to call 0345 6060 973. I'm Ian Dale at Drive, LBC News Time, it's 7:31. Simon Conway has the news headlines.
The Met Police say they believe 3 schoolgirls from East London who travelled to Syria to join IS militants paid for their trip by selling their family's jewellery. The girls left the UK last month. Scotland Yard says the girls won't be arrested if they come home, as there is no evidence they've been involved in terrorist activity. Harriet Harman has told LBC the BBC are right to suspend Jeremy Clarkson while they investigate a confrontation he had with a producer.
I do think the BBC has to uphold decent standards in all respects, and however gifted people are as presenters, they are not entitled to think that they're above decent standards of behaviour.
The corporation says the latest episode of Top Gear won't be broadcast on Sunday. Greater Manchester Police are looking into reports of a racially abusive tweet about Arsenal striker Danny Welbeck. He scored the winning goal against his former club Manchester United in last night's FA Cup quarter-final. The business news: concerns over Greece's debts have helped push the pound to a 7-year high against the euro. Sterling has hit €1.40. People who've taken out payday loans and are struggling to keep up repayments are being failed by the lenders, according to the Financial Conduct Authority. The watchdog says it's uncovered unfair practices in all firms that it reviewed, and they're not complying with the rules. And shoppers and retailers could benefit after an EU ruling that will limit fees on processing bank card payments. Charges within the EU will be capped at 0.3% for credit and 0.2% for debit cards. And in the city, the FTSE 100 closed down 173 points at 67.02. LBC weather: mainly dry overnight with a frost in places for London and the southeast, with light winds, lows of 4 Celsius, strengthening winds for northern Scotland, the northwest and Wales with some patchy rain, cloudy over Northern Ireland. Tomorrow, cloudy with outbreaks of rain and highs of 9 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Simon Conway.
This is Adam Moore in the LBC Travel Centre with some long delays now heading coastbound on the M3 after an accident between junctions 3 and 4, Bagshot and Camberley. 2 of the 3 lanes are blocked along at the moment. The Highways Agency have told us that there's been an oil spillage as well, so it could take a while to clear this. Long delays of close to an hour now. The queue's back towards junction 2 for the M25 at the Thorpe interchange. On the M25, the anti-clockwise entry slip at junction 6 at Godstone, that's still shut while they do resurfacing work. Tolworth, problems at Tolworth Broadway, that has been shut towards town. That's the A240 closed at the moment for a police investigation. Shut between the Tolworth junction and Oakley Way. The exit slip from the A3 there also closed because of that. Delays tonight in Oxfordshire. The A40 Oxford Road is closed at Burford after an accident. That's shut between Shilsford Road and Burford Road at Astall, so do expect delays. Keeping you moving. Your next travel update is in 15 minutes.
This is LBC.
It's that time of year again. Time to turn the lights down low and be seduced by a dazzling French model, like the Renault Clio Dynamique, from only £149 per month, with 4 years 0% APR representative until March 31st during Renault Romance season. Ooh la la. 0% APR representative Renault Finance. Deposit 1321, 48 monthly payments of 149, final payment 5023. At participating dealers only, subject to status, over 18s. T's and C's apply. See Renault.co.uk/offers.
If you feel so self-conscious about your teeth that it stops you smiling in public or eating causes you pain, It could all be different in just a day. I'm Dr. Michael Zibitz, dental specialist at TDC Implant Centre. Our award-winning treatment could give you a full set of beautiful fixed teeth restored in just one day. A quicker, less painful alternative to traditional implants. So see smileinaday.co.uk or call TDC Harley Street on 0203 7334 986.
Before we all got smartphones, people would actually memorise phone numbers and impress you with their phone booking knowledge. Do that today and people will think you're just a bit sad. But if you told them about 118434, they'd be dead impressed, because 118434 is the only number you need for any number you want. 118434, the handy number for handy numbers.
Calls cost 76 pence plus £1.53 per minute from a BT landline. Other networks vary and mobiles cost considerably more.
To the wheelbarrow race winners and the Sunday League smashers, the chainsaw juggling champions and the sword scoffing masters, to the triathletes, the mathletes, to all of our fellow number ones, we say, boom! You did it, and so did we.
O2 has been ranked #1 network for customer service satisfaction by Ofcom for the 6th time in a row. O2, be more dog.
A platinum diamond ring catches the light at every opportunity. But placed on the finger of the woman you love, it shimmers like never before. It's these small finishing touches that make a huge difference. For the ultimate finishing touch for your home, use SureSet's permeable paving. Guaranteed for 15 years, it'll make your home shine. Stunning, permeable paving from SureSet. To find out more, visit suresetfinish.com.
Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
6:36 here on LBC. Harriet Harman is here taking your calls. 0345 6060 973. Ben is not happy. He says, Ian, you're giving away your Tory allegiances by pulling up Harriet Harman every minute or two, trying to tell her how she should be conforming to certain stereotypes of the left as imagined in your right-wing mind. You'd never be so adversarial and patronising to a Conservative frontbench. Have I been adversarial and patronising, Harriet?
No, I think you've been stimulating and provocative, which is your job.
Stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Ben. Let's go to Clive in Woking. Hello, Clive.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
Fine. What would you like to ask Harriet?
Just a very quick, simple question, Harriet. Are you preparing for coalition with the Liberals?
No, we're preparing and planning for a winning and overall majority.
Now, we get that answer every time you come on when people ask this question, but you know as well as I do that the polls are showing that a coalition is at least a 50-50 possibility, if not more. So you can't keep getting away with not answering that question.
Well, I know that people think that I should answer that question, and Twitter goes absolutely mad and goes, oh, you're ducking and weaving. But, you know, it is my right to say, why should we countenance a situation when we're defining ourselves as losers when we are planning to be winners? It is like saying to somebody who is like an Olympic athlete about to run the 100 metres and they're stretching back into their blocks, and somebody wanders up and says, what are you going to do when you come fourth? I mean, actually, what the polls are showing is what is actually a snapshot of now.
Yeah.
We have got until May the 7th, and we are campaigning to win. And actually,
sure,
I
of course
think,
you are.
Yeah,
but you know as well as I do that there's no point in turning up on May the 8th and starting to think, well, OK, we haven't won an overall majority, but we want to form a coalition with someone. You actually have to have thought about that strategy beforehand as to which parties you might want to talk to and which parties you wouldn't.
No, you have to do everything you can to win every vote if you're the Labour Party, and then you have to deal with whatever the situation is once you get elected. And I am answering a state question because Clive is saying, are you preparing for a coalition with Liberals? And I'm saying, no, we are not. And that is, you know, I think that people are entitled to know whether we're looking over our shoulders, you know, trying to make our manifesto match the Lib Dems. No, our manifesto will be to match the needs of this country.
Nobody's accusing you of that, but we all know what's happening in Scotland. And you're not going to sit here with a straight face and tell me that you're going to make gains in Scotland, because we all know what the polls are showing in Scotland, that you might lose virtually, well, you might end up with between 6 and 10 seats in Scotland. So that means that it's going to be very difficult for Labour to get an overall majority without actually making gains in Scotland. So therefore the electoral arithmetic is relatively simple. It means that a coalition is more likely than not.
Well, what we need to do is make gains in England, and what we need to do in Scotland is hold on to our Labour MPs. And the reality is that if people in Scotland want to keep David Cameron in number 10, the best way for them to do that is to vote for the SNP, and then there will be fewer Labour seats, and therefore we will not be in an overall majority or the largest party, and then we will be in opposition, and then they will have a government carrying on doing the damage that David Cameron is doing to Scotland.
There are 59 seats in Scotland. At the moment, you have 41 of them. I think it's entirely impossible that you think that you're going to maintain those 41 with the way the polls are looking.
But we are obviously seeing what everybody's seeing in terms of the opinion polls. We're hearing what people are saying on the doorstep. We are trying to persuade people that they should look again at Labour, and in particular warn them of the danger if they vote for the SNP. But you would work out, Ian, because you're an intelligent person, that actually if there are fewer Labour MPs and we are in opposition, we will not be in government at all. And therefore the idea of a coalition, well, you can't form a coalition unless you're the largest party.
Well,
if we lose seats, we will not be the largest party.
Greg in Chigwell has a related question. Hello, Greg.
Hi, good evening. Harriet, as a possible Labour voter, I don't think you can dodge the question of forming a coalition. If I'm to make an informed decision on my voting, I need to know what you're going to do. It's not a question you can dodge. You are a servant to the voters, and we demand an answer. Otherwise, I'll go somewhere else.
Well, I think I've got to reserve my right not to answer hypothetical questions and second guess what the voters are going to do. Because you know what? Everybody says that this election is going to be close, but people don't know. What we do know is going to be unpredictable. And I'm not a commentator, Greg, who's going to sit here and say people might do this, people might do that,
you're also
and this is
sensible,
what I'll
and
do.
you know that the SNP are on 48% in Scotland in the polls, and Labour is on about 22%, and the other parties are almost irrelevant in that scenario. So you know as well as I do that assuming that even if the two figures come together a little bit before May the 7th, you're not going to win in Scotland. So that therefore means that it is virtually impossible to get a majority. Now, if you're seriously telling me that as a political party, your colleagues and you are not doing any contingency planning for that scenario where you lose seats in Scotland, I don't believe you.
But you can't... Oh, thank you very much for that vote of confidence in my integrity. I'm telling you, we are not going round plotting and planning for coalition. What we're doing is fighting to win the election.
You're a liar, Harriet. You're a liar.
I am not.
Well, we don't
I am
need that
absolutely. I am not. We are fighting to win votes. And you know what? The thing is, there's a mathematical issue here.
I'm sorry, Harriet. You can't win my vote if you don't tell me what you're even maybe planning to do. I can't make an informed decision.
We are not. I am not planning. No, I am not planning for a coalition with the SNP or the Lib Dems or anybody else. I am planning and working for a Labour government. And please do not call me a liar, Greg, because that is the actual truth of what I am doing. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm planning to, as Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, I think what's in the best interest of this country is an overall majority, not one of these coalitions where everybody's blaming everybody else and getting out of their promises.
I want you to look me straight in the eye and tell me, have you been in any internal Labour Party meeting, in any discussions where the subject of coalition planning has been brought up?
Come on, answer the people, Harriet.
Yeah,
come on.
No, not this. I mean, after the last election,
in the last
I was in the coalition talks, but that was after.
In the last 6 months, as Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, have you been involved in discussions with your shadow cabinet
Absolutely
colleagues
not.
or Labour advisors about any kind of coalition planning?
No, absolutely not.
Well, you're mad.
No, I'm not mad.
No, you are. Because you can read the polls just as well as I can, and as Greg can, and he wants an answer.
Ian, you're interrupting, Greg. Far away, Greg.
Fail to prepare to foul, Harriet.
Oh.
Because that is what happened. Well, last time when we got a coalition, we went into it and we thought, okay, this is going to be fine, because Nick's all impressed us in the TV debates, and it's all going to be rosy. We're going to get the best of both worlds. and it hasn't. And if the people are to make an informed decision this time, we need to know both sides of the story from every party.
Well, I totally agree with you that everybody was lulled into a false sense of security by them, going into a coalition together. And I think the Lib Dems broke their promises, and the Tories have not, like on tuition fees, and the Tories have not delivered the economic recovery down to everybody's doorstep that they said they would do. But that's not our fault, Greg. That is the fault. I agree.
But if you're going to get into bed with another party, we need to know what your stand firm policies are.
But we've said we're going to be saying what our policies are in the manifesto. And, you do not go into something planning to not succeed, because then it's like defeatist. It's not
we're
actually losers.
It's what any business would do in a situation like this. It would be called contingency planning, because you have to war game it. You can't just operate on the basis, well, we're going to win come what may. We don't care what any other scenario would be.
You can either lurk around planning for failure, or you can actually campaign for success. And the truth is, we are working for success, not actually planning for our own
I have to say, I would be
failure.
Astonished if there were not people around Ed Miliband who have actually been looking at this, because that is, I bet you that's what the Tories are doing, because they've been through it all. And part of the reason they managed to form a coalition with Nick Clegg last time was that they had actually
that is completely wrong. That is complete rewriting of history. The reason why David Cameron formed a coalition with the Lib Dems rather than Labour forming a coalition with anybody is because they were the largest party, which was the result of the election.
But Labour tried to do it, but very belatedly.
But you know what? No, it wasn't belated. The point about those, quotes, so-called coalition talks is they were never going anywhere, because the numbers didn't add up. Because if you added up the Labour MPs with the Lib Dem MPs, it didn't form a majority. If you added up the Tory MPs with the Lib Dem MPs, it formed a majority, and off he went to the palace. So all this stuff about, if only we'd have planned in advance, we'd have been up the Mall to the palace and we'd have been forming a government. It was rubbish.
I'm not saying that, but anyway, I don't think we're going to get very far with this. Greg, thank you for your call. We have 15 more minutes with Harriet Harman. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. This is LBC. It's 7:46.
This is Adam Moore on the LBC Travel Centre. Well, some very long delays now on the M3. The coastbound side is queuing from before Junction 3 at Bagshot down to the scene of an accident blocking two lanes. 3 cars involved in this. Happened to just over an hour ago now on the coastbound side of the M3. The queues are almost back to the M25, the Thorpe interchange. Delays are well over an hour. There's also been an oil spillage there as well, so this could take a while to clear. So the M3 coastbound, very slow from before Junction 3 at Bagshot. M25 anti-clockwise, the entry slip at Junction 6 from Godstone and the A22. That is shut at the moment. Could be shut all night as well while they do some resurfacing work. Tolworth problems on Tolworth Broadway. That is closed northbound for a police investigation. In Oxfordshire at Burford, the A40 Oxford Road, that's still closed after an accident. It's shut between Shilton Road and Burford Road at Astle. Keeping you moving. Your next travel update is in half an hour.
This is LBC.
To the wheelbarrow race winners and the Sunday League smashers, the chainsaw juggling champions and the sword scoffing masters, to the triathletes, the mathletes, to all of our fellow number ones, we say, boom! You did it, and so did we.
O2 has been ranked #1 network for customer service satisfaction by Ofcom for the 6th time in a row. O2, be more dog.
The Vista of Venice, recognised throughout the world. But add in the sounds of the Grand Canal at first light, and it's unforgettable. It's these small finishing touches that make a huge difference. For the ultimate finishing touch for your home, use SureSet's permeable paving. Guaranteed for 15 years, it adds a classic touch to your home. Stunning, permeable paving from SureSet. To find out more, visit suresetfinish.com.
When patients come to us for help, many of them have been living with painful, disfigured teeth for years. But our treatment could give you a full set of beautiful fixed teeth restored in just a matter of hours. I'm Dr. Michael Zibitz from TDC Implant Centre, and our new innovative procedure could help you even if your regular dentist has told you nothing can be done. So see smileinaday.co.uk or call TDC Harley Street on 0203 7334 986.
When it comes to driving in Old Blighty, you do things a little differently. There's not miles of long straight roads over here, just roundabouts. Roads with barely enough room for a car, let alone a man in a van coming the other way. And of course, the speed bumps. Brilliant, isn't it? That's why the Volvo V40R design was tuned and tested to tackle those wonderfully British roads. And from just $269 a month with Volvo car leasing, it's even been tuned for the British economy.
3-year personal contract hire agreement with initial rental of £807. Offer ends May 31st, subject to status, mileage and return conditions apply. Visit volvocars.co.uk for more details.
Book a test drive today at your nearest Volvo showroom. The Volvo V40R design, made in Sweden, tuned for Britain.
Before we all got smartphones, people would actually memorise phone numbers and impress you with their phone booking knowledge. Do that today, and people will think you're just a bit sad. But if you told them about 118434, they'd be dead impressed, because 118434 is the only number you need for any number you want. 118434, the handy number for handy numbers.
Calls cost 76 pence plus £1.53 per minute from a BT landline. Other networks vary, and mobiles cost considerably more.
Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
10 to 8, Harriet Harman is with us. Paul emails to say, I'm an avid listener of your show and believe that you believe in democracy in this country, but you only seem to allow calls that suit Harriet Harman. I'm not sure after that last call from Greg that Harriet would quite agree with that assertion, but there we go. You can watch us at lbc.co.uk. Let's go into your calls. Leon's in Battersea. Hello, Leon.
Hello there.
Hi, what would you like to ask?
Well, what I'd like to ask is, how much of a gentleman or lady can one be if you want equality?
So basically, in what respect, Leon?
Well, in respect of everything. I mean,
opening doors,
Emily
that sort of thing. Sorry, say again.
Well, Emily Watson has recently caused a bit of a stir
Emma
in
Watson.
regards to Emma Watson. Sorry, in regards to having to pay the bill at the end when she recently went on a date. So my question is can there really be equality? And is it equality women should be fighting for? Should it be more about justice? Because I think there's a bit of a, it's a bit of a conflict when you look at it.
Well, I'd like to see a situation where it wasn't necessarily the case that men earn more than women, and therefore women are on equal terms and then can be paying their way on equal terms. And I think that that's where I'd like to be putting my focus rather than on who's paying the bill at the end. But I think there is this idea that you want to be independent, you want to pay your own way, you don't want to be beholden by anybody, and it's kind of, it might feel a bit old-fashioned. But on the other hand, if somebody is better off and earning more than you, then it's a good sharing for them to pay more than you.
What about a first date? I mean, do you remember your first date with Jack? Who paid then?
That's too long ago, in the mists of time.
Where did you go?
Fog of time. We worked together, so basically, I don't think we. So
it wasn't very romantic then. It was just a meeting over the photocopier.
Honestly, Leon doesn't want to hear about this. Honestly, he doesn't.
No, Ed Ball's got into a lot of trouble on this. So when he was on last, I think we'd better leave that one there. Leon, thank you. Jonathan is in Esher. Hello, Jonathan.
Good evening. How you doing?
Hello. What would you like to ask?
Harriet, yourself and Ed Balls and Ed Miliband were fairly senior in the last Gordon Brown government. A government arguably destroyed our economy and drove us to near bankruptcy. Why would you be trusted again?
Because an election is a choice, and I think that we can say to people that the Conservatives made a lot of promises about improving people's jobs prospects and improving their living standards, which they haven't delivered on. They promised they would look after the NHS, and they haven't. And by the way, it wasn't Gordon Brown that caused the global financial crisis. The clue is in the name. It was global, and therefore we had to borrow from the public purse in order to prop up the banks. Otherwise there would have been a crash and a depression. So I don't accept that it was Gordon Brown that caused the global financial crisis. And so we actually think the Tories have slowed down the economic recovery and people are worse off. I don't know what your situation is, Jonathan. Has your pay kept up with inflation, or are you still stagnating where you were in 2010?
Well, let's not argue or worry about myself. You say about the banks, you bailed the banks out for 200 billion. You left us in debt for $1 trillion. You spent an extra 800 billion on nothing. You sold 400 tons of gold at the lowest it had ever been. If you'd waited 2 years, you'd have got an extra 24 billion in. You could have paid for the Olympics twice over.
During the last Labour government,
your handling of the economy was atrocious. You wouldn't be allowed to run. You wouldn't be allowed
okay,
to
Jonathan,
run the telly in our house.
Okay, so basically we did not spend public money on nothing. We spent it on rebuilding schools where actually there was buckets in the classroom catching drips from the ceiling. We spent it on hospitals that were falling down because we believe in the NHS. And actually, even the Tories agreed that our level of public spending at about 2008 was, they said, about right. And then the global financial crisis happened. And I am not apologising for the children's centres that we built and the schools that were renewed. Those were necessary after the years of the Tory neglect.
Do you accept, though, that it's all very well Ed Balls making a big speech on Tory spending plans, but nowhere in that speech did he say anything about what Labour was going to do? And we all know, again, from the polls, that the people seem to trust Cameron and Osborne on the economy more than Miliband and Balls. That's a problem, isn't it?
He did say what we were going to do. We want to bring the budget back into deficit as soon as possible during the next Parliament. We also want to make sure that the tax system is fairer, so that we'll reintroduce the top rate of tax up to 50% in order to pay some money into the public purse, that we will ensure that some benefits changes are made which makes things fairer, like ensuring that we don't pay winter fuel payments to the wealthiest pensioners, and we will grow and support the economy so that people's living standards mean that they can be making national insurance contributions and tax contributions. So it's just not true, Ian, for you to say we are not setting out what we're doing.
No,
the Tories have set out what they're doing. The speech
that Ed Balls made yesterday was all about Tory spending plans.
Because actually, if you look at their spending cuts, they want to be in a surplus by 30 billion by the end of the year. They've got £7 billion.
The IFS say that the spending cuts would be 30 billion, not 70. So where does this 70 billion figure come from?
It's 30 billion plus 7 or possibly 10, and that would take public spending back to levels that haven't been seen since the 1930s.
No, since 2002.
And you know what? No, since the 1930s.
No.
That's what.
In cash terms, since 2002.
No, that's what the Office of Public Budget Responsibility said. You know, and if people are questioning our plans for the public finances, then we are happy to let the independent Office of Budget Responsibility audit all our proposals. All the government need to do is let that happen.
Right,
but they won't do it because our proposals do add up and theirs don't.
Final question from Graham in Morden. Hello, Graham.
Hello, Ian. Hello, Harriet.
Very quickly, if you would.
Just briefly then, there's been a lot of questioning today in the news about who people think are to blame about the 3 girls going to Syria. People are saying it's the security services, the families. I mean, I know who I blame, but
who do you blame?
Well, we do need to get to your question, Graham, because we're near the end of the programme.
Well, I was asking who maybe you think is to blame, Harriet, because I know who I think is to blame.
Okay.
I think it's absolutely heartbreaking. Rather than doing blaming, I want to make sure that everything is being done in appallingly difficult circumstances to send out a message to those girls that they can and should come back. And that is the most important thing, to get them back with their families. Obviously, in the future, we'll have to look at the situation to work out what more could have been done to protect those girls from being groomed and lured away, because we don't want any other girls to face what they're facing in Syria, and any other family to face the heartbreak of having their girls lured away.
Well, Harriet, that brings us to the end of the hour. It's gone very, very quickly tonight. It's been quite a spiky hour, I think. Now we're going to be, seeing you once more just before the election campaign proper starts, so we look forward to that.
And I hope we're having a women's debate, aren't we, Ian?
Well, we haven't made that public yet. So
oh, right.
We'll keep that bit quiet. for the moment.
The question is, will the Tories show up or be too frightened?
We will see about that very shortly. Harriet Harman, thank you very much indeed for that, I think, after having said that. I'll be back tomorrow at 4 on LBC. Coming up at 10, it's Duncan Barks, but now it's Beverly Turner.
Thank you, Ian. I'm here for Clive Bull all this week, and at 9 it's the Health Hour, so think about your aches and pains and get in touch to ask Dr Snay all about them. But first, carrying on this topic, news tonight that the 3 young British women who have fled to join ISIS will not be prosecuted if they return to Britain, and the families want another apology from the Met Police. But isn't this whole story veiled in patronising sexism? If they were men, they'd be sent straight to jail. So why on earth are we describing them as victims? We'll hear what a spokesperson from the Muslim Women's Network thinks in a moment, and I promise you, you'll be surprised. I'm Beverly Turner, and it all starts next.